We're delighted you're joining us for this virtual program that will address issues that could not be more timely nor more important. The W&J Symposium on Democracy offers a unique opportunity for our college community and our guests to engage experts in a variety of fields as we invite them to share their expertise and perspectives on the state of democracy in the United States and around the world. Each February, we at W&J take a day off regular classes to focus on our roles as citizens and stewards of democratic institutions. Washington and Jefferson College was founded nearly 2.5 centuries ago in the last days of the American Revolution, when the new nation's founders already understood that an independent, self-governing country would need an educated citizenry committed to nurturing and sustaining the ideal of government entrusted to the people. George Washington said of education, "Without this foundation, every other means, in my opinion, must fail." Thomas Jefferson wrote, "Educate and inform the whole mass of the people. They are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty." And our college enjoyed a relationship with another of the founders, Benjamin Franklin. He too spoke often of the need for educated citizens, pointing out the inherent fragility of democracy. In the weeks since the January 6th riot at the US Capitol, many people have recalled Dr. Franklin's pointed response when asked what the Constitutional Convention had accomplished. "We have given you a republic," he said, "if you can keep it." Democracy by its very nature can be sustained only by a participating and informed public with broadly shared commitments to the values of freedom, fairness, truth, and equality. Yet this dependency on the general populace means that democracy always carries within it the seeds of its own destruction. It's worth remembering that throughout history, attempts at democratic self-government have struggled or failed more often than not. Sometimes this has been when legitimately elected people gained power and then undermined public trust and confidence by abusing their positions for personal gain. Other times, majority rule has been assumed to be all that's necessary for a functioning democratic system. Yet this limited perspective only results in a winner-take-all mentality that can deprive the minority in the electorate of its basic rights. A nonprofit and nonpartisan NGO called Freedom House, from which we'll hear later today, monitors the state of key freedoms in nations around the world. Its research tracks such democratic tenets as free and fair elections, the rights of minorities, freedom of expression and of the press, and the rule of law as it applies even to those holding power. I'd like to share just a few lines from one of their reports. It reads, "A quarter century ago, at the end of the Cold War, it appeared that totalitarianism had at last been vanquished and liberal democracy had won the great ideological battle of the 20th century. Today, it is democracy that finds itself battered and weakened." The report continues, "Perhaps worst of all and most worrisome for the future, young people who have little memory of the long struggles against fascism and communism may be losing faith and interest in the democratic project. The very idea of democracy and its promotion has been tarnished among many, contributing to a dangerous apathy." In light of these disturbing trends, the well-being of democracy is today a growing international concern. Not long ago, I helped moderate a meeting of university and governmental leaders at the Council of Europe. Nearly 40 countries were represented by delegates who believed that higher education must accept significantly more responsibility for equipping those who will lead the democratic institutions of the future. This is not a new idea here at Washington and Jefferson College, and we take the responsibility seriously. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the programming that you can expect today and how our schedule will unfold. Our theme for this year's symposium is Democracy in Times of Crisis, when freedom and security collide. Little did we know just how relevant this would be when this theme was selected many months ago. Today's symposium includes 5 main sessions led by guest presenters, and these are open to our W&J community, our alumni, and all of our external guests. Each of these sessions will begin at the top of an hour and last 45 minutes, typically with 30 minutes of presentation by a speaker, 15 minutes following for Q&A. Your questions can be submitted anytime during a session by typing directly into the Q&A section that you'll find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll get to as many questions as time permits, and they'll be posed to the speaker by the session's moderator. In just a few minutes, our first session at 9 a.m. Eastern Time will feature Nathan Law, a leader of the freedom movement in Hong Kong who has been living in exile in the United Kingdom since the tragic collapse of democracy in Hong Kong in recent months and the imprisonment of the principal activists. Nathan was with us on our campus only a year ago and will be back to discuss his work since that time as a global ambassador, urging the world community to stand against China's crackdown on freedom in his homeland. In the next session at 10 a.m., we'll talk to Adrian Shabazz of Freedom House. Adrian will discuss the state of internet freedom here and abroad, including the debate about who should control access to social media and other web content. You'll note on the schedule that student breakouts are set for 11 a.m. These are available only to the internal W&J community of faculty, staff, and students. These are followed by time for a lunch break. We'll reconvene with all guests at 1 p.m. to hear from Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State of the state of Michigan, in a session exploring the consequences of false claims of election fraud in the US, as well as efforts to reassure voters of the integrity of the system as we look to the future. Secretary Benson is a former law school dean and an expert on election law. At 2 p.m., we'll pause for another hour of student breakouts. And then at 3, all of us will have the opportunity to experience a presentation in words and photographs by W&J graduate Pat Bennick, who as Director of Photography for United Press International was an eyewitness inside the US Capitol during the harrowing insurrection of January 6th. He will also share his impressions of the presidential inauguration, for which he had an up-close seat. Our last open session of the day will feature Dr. Kathleen Belew, an historian and author who studies the rise of militant white supremacist organizations and militias, the same sinister groups the world saw so vividly on January 6th. Kathleen is frequently called upon as a guest expert by national news programs. Throughout the day, as each session concludes, we'll remind you of when the next program will begin and where to locate the Zoom link. All the information you need is outlined at symposiumondemocracy.org under the agenda page. This is where you can click on a session to be directed to the Zoom webinar link for any programs you choose to join throughout the day, regardless of whether you RSVP'd in advance. Again, that's symposiumondemocracy.org. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say how pleased we are that the W&J Symposium on Democracy is made possible with generous support from the Guy Woodward Foundation. For this, we are most grateful. I also want to express my personal thanks to the faculty, staff, and student members of our steering committee that worked for many months to plan this symposium. Before I more formally introduce our first speaker, the Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Honorable Dr. Tom Wolf, would like to express his welcome to all of you who are joining us for this symposium. Governor Wolf.
Hi, I'm Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf. Welcome to the 4th Annual Washington and Jefferson Symposium on Democracy. This program is both timely and needed. Recent events in America and around the world underscore the importance of democracy and remind us that we all have a responsibility to nurture and sustain it. Government by the people is never easy, and the past year has certainly been a reminder of that fact, as elected officials have had to make hard decisions to protect the public health, respond to racial injustice, and conduct elections in a highly contentious environment. I'm thankful that Washington and Jefferson College has been known for producing leaders of uncommon integrity for 240 years. Pennsylvania and the world need graduates like yours now more than ever. So please accept my best wishes for a successful symposium on democracy.
Thank you, Governor Wolf. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Stay logged in right here, and our first session will begin promptly at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll see you then.